Hello, everyone. My name is Natalie Ledwell, and I am so glad to welcome you to this amazing training workshop experiential experience that you'll be having tonight. I have a very special guest with me, my good friend Alan Davidson. How are you, Alan?
Fabulous, my dear. Thank you. So pleased to be with you.
It's so awesome to have you here. The training that we actually call this the evolutionary meditation. So this is something that actually takes any kind of healing modality, EFT meditation to a whole other level. So I'm really excited about the experience that you will have this evening by being on this training. And I'm very excited to be spending the next hour to hour and a half with my friend Alan Davidson, because he is truly a good friend and an amazing legend. And we were just saying before we got on the broadcast tonight that we have a very similar checkered past. Because I used to own nightclubs for a little while, and Alan, I know that you used to work in clubs for a while.
I did. Yes, I call myself the ex-meth junkie drag queen bartender to the fabulous.
Well, I had a night in our nightclub for drag queens called Bitch, so that was kind of pretty funny. So we're cut from similar cloth. But isn't it interesting how that we can, it doesn't matter where you've been in your past or what your story is up until this point in time, you can still have a very deep, enriching, and spiritual experience in this life, regardless of what's happened before you get to this point.
Absolutely. I was just thinking that was my bartending for a dozen years in, huge dance clubs that just sort of helped me go with the flow with no matter what's happening. It just doesn't seem to matter. I just do what needs to be done, and it doesn't bother me, and that's served me really well for the last 40 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Alan if you don't know much about him. He is the creator of the Enlightened tapping and is the founder of ThroughYourBody.com. He's the author of Body Brilliance, Mastering Your 5 Vital Intelligences, which is the #1 best-selling health and wellness book and winner of 2 National Book of the Year awards. Now, there is some amazing stuff in this bio that I need to talk to you about, Alan, or ask you about. You also serve for the Center of Integral Wisdom. Now, when I look at this, I look at names that you sit on a board with people like Michael Beckwith and Ken Wilber and Barbara Marx Hubbard. Tell us a little bit about the Center of Integral Wisdom.
Well, it's a privilege to be on a board with such thought leaders and world leaders like that, and our commitment is to sort of bring the leading edge of thought, heart, body practices to help impact culture, to make a real difference in the world. And so it's exciting to be with such thought leaders. And I'll say my particular position on the board is how do we embody these great ideas that so many of these world teachers talk about and teach about.
Absolutely, because that's the game changer. Knowing it is one thing. Knowing it academically is one thing, but embodying it and actually living it and applying it is a completely different thing. So okay, very interesting. You actually have a Bachelor of Science with an emphasis on psychology, sociology, philosophy, and religion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting mix.
Helped me with all those years of bartending, let me tell you.
Right. I can only imagine. And you have fascinated with the intersection of bodywork, psychology, and spiritual practice. And I suppose that really comes into the whole embodiment of knowing spirituality and knowing it academically, but then being able to embody it as a practice that you do all the time. Yeah. Now, along with 70 other world thought leaders, Alan is speaking at Harvard University on December 5th, 2015, teaching meditation, sharing about the tipping point of the human consciousness and enlightened entrepreneurs and how they play an integral part in the evolution of humanity. Now, I know that we're going to get into more of this because, you and I are on the same page when it comes to that. It's the entrepreneur that's going to save the economy and save the world, but the enlightened entrepreneur is what's really going to create a massive shift.
Yes.
So if you haven't realized already, you're in for quite a treat tonight. It's going to be quite a ride, and I can't wait to get into the nuts and bolts of it. So Alan's coming to us all the way from Houston. I am in Marina Del Rey. I'm in LA. So if you're here live on the webinar, I really would encourage you to share where you're from. If you put your name and where you're from so that we can see all the people that are joining us tonight, that would be amazing. Now, Alan, let's get into some meat for tonight.
All right, darling. Let's dive in.
Let's dive in. So you do what we call an enlightened tapping meditation. So that sounds like three completely different things to me. Mm-hmm. So and you actually said that it's like a marriage between East and West. So what do you actually mean by enlightened tapping meditation?
All right. Well, we could spend days riffing on that, but I promise to keep it short for you. Natalie, we live in such an exciting time right now. The World Wide Web has revolutionized everything. And not only do we have access to all the wisdom in every part of the world, but we have access to all the ancient wisdom all the way forward to what is cutting edge in society and culture and technology today. And from that, we can glean what are the best practices that help people transform and change and evolve. And so old paradigms of consciousness are falling away. In the Eastern tradition, we had the classic idea of enlightenment that we transcend the body, we kill the ego, and we move to this very impersonal, non-dual, peaceful place. And what Western culture has brought to this conversation is, the legacy of Freud and Carl Jung and Fritz Perls and Gestalt therapy and the great psychologists that have been working in the last 125 years in the West to teach us about the different parts of our psyche, the different voices or subpersonalities or archetypes that we have, and gives us a whole new way of working. And what I love, Natalie, is that the bridge between Eastern Enlightenment and Western psychology is the human body. Enlightenment is a bodily process. Meditation is a bodily process. And for all the 7 billion people that live on our planet, we all have a body. So we all have the vehicle that we need and can use to completely transform our lives. So that's sort of a taste of what I mean by enlightened tapping meditation and bringing the very best practices of the East and the West into one amazing paradigm-shifting technique.
Right. Now, I can see that a few people are logging in and telling us that we've actually got someone. We've got Griselda, who's joining us from Argentina. I know, isn't that amazing? Laurie from Huntsville in Alabama. I'm still getting used to what all the abbreviations for all the U.S. states are. And we've got Teresa from Alberta and Lisa from Laguna Beach. So welcome, ladies. Those are just a few of the people that are coming in right now. Okay, so I want to touch on a little bit of what you've said there. So you've said that what we're talking about is like with meditation, with tapping, so forth. We're talking about it's a bodily. Because I would have thought that meditation is more of like a mind thing, but you're saying that it's more of a body thing. Can you just expand on that a little bit for me?
Well, sure. And I'm going to use Fritz Perls, who was the founder of Gestalt therapy. One of his favorite quotes was, "Lose your mind and come to your senses." So, isn't that great?
That's awesome.
And often. But it's the idea, for those of you that have ever tried to meditate, you've heard that voice in your head that is always just talking, critiquing, judging, thinking, critiquing everything that happens. And meditation can be so difficult because it's hard to get that voice just to shut up or be quiet or calm down. And when we begin to focus on the body, we actually disengage from that part of the psyche or the ego or the personality that is constantly fueling that voice in our mind. And so when we focus on the body, we actually unplug from that part of our mind and allow other aspects of our higher consciousness to come through.
Right. Okay. So I know that you talk about, enlightened tapping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's explain. Let's go back a little bit. Let's just explain maybe what tapping is,
Sure.
so that people understand what that is, and then let's talk about enlightened tapping, because I think what you're talking about there is a completely different level of what most people understand as tapping.
Yes, well, I totally agree. And first, let me just say, even a word about enlightenment. In classic Eastern Enlightenment, Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism, even Sufism or mystical Christianity or the Kabbalah, they all talk about these enlightened states. And they're all referring to um, that ability to transcend our normal waking everyday self, that voice in our head, and move to this place of unity conscious oneness. But it's a very impersonal, peaceful, witnessing, still, loving place. But it's impersonal, it's still, it's quiet, it's extraordinary, but it's the place of the no self.
Right.
And tapping, now, interestingly enough, is an old Taoist or Chinese healing practice. But in the last 40 years in the United States and through, Western world, it started with Roger Callahan and Gary Craig, and they were tapping to heal trauma and phobias and illnesses in the body. And then in the last 10 years, people started to use them for affirmations and sort of using positive ways of working with the psyche and tapping. But you're right, Natalie. Enlightened tapping is a whole nother level. So once we're able to shift into these amazing enlightened states, which everyone on the hangout with us is going to be able to experience, once you shift into these amazing high vibrational states of consciousness, we use the tapping to anchor them into the body, into the nervous system, and into the energy field so that you can come back over and over and over. It was like opening a door and anchoring in that sensation. And so every time you think about it, every time you want, you can come back.
Right. Okay. So, because I know that with EFT, like I've seen people use it for such a myriad of different things, like food addictions and limiting beliefs and reprogramming for a wealth mindset and a whole bunch of different things. So, with enlightened tapping, what are we achieving with that?
Well, there's a multiple things that happen with enlightened tapping. One is recognizing that what I call the separate self, or psychologists would call the ego, or the personality, or your character, or just who you think you are in your normal, everyday, waking self, that you have all these wounds and traumas and defenses and prejudices and preferences and things that you avoid and things that you prefer, and you have all these ways of being in the world. And a lot of times those are based on fear.
Right.
And so the enlightened tapping gives you a way to sort of begin to shift that and allow you to experience amazing states of peace, amazing states of love in the enlightened voices. And so those parts of yourself that are still stuck in fear can begin to grow and heal and come into their own completeness and wholeness.
Right. Okay. Because it's interesting. You talk about because when we are meditating or we're trying to get to that place of no self, we're getting into a place of and I think you described it as beautiful and an amazing place. So is that is that what you mean? Like, are we trying to attain that, or are we trying to connect to our soul in a way through this modality? What is it that we're trying to achieve here?
Well, so I call it evolutionary enlightenment, evolutionary meditation.
Yeah.
And one thing we've seen, classic enlightenment has been around literally for 4,000 years that we know from writing. The ancient
So
Chinese.
let's just quickly talk about enlightenment then, because I just
Yeah.
want to break it down and make sure that everyone here understands what we're talking about. So when you talk about enlightenment,
hmm
what do you mean by that?
Well, you might have heard the terms nirvana or satori.
Right. Yep.
Um, yeah, and in the East, it is that experience of completely transcending your normal everyday self, and becoming one with the consciousness, one with the world, one with the universe.
Yep.
It's beyond the beyond, and it is that impersonal peace, that impersonal consciousness, that impersonal love. So that's an enlightened state. And many people might have had flashes of that. If you've been watching a sunset or watching the water or watching a fire burn or a candle, you can have those sort of flashes and spontaneous experiences where you become so peaceful, so calm, and that voice in your head just completely goes quiet, and you are beyond even time and space. So that's sort of a flash experience of enlightenment. But then how do we make that a permanent trait? That's the question. How can we skillfully and strategically create these enlightened experiences?
Right. And so, but we don't want to be enlightened, 24 hours a day, surely.
Absolutely, you do.
Oh, we do? Okay.
So let me are you familiar with David Hawkins and his book Power versus Force and his map of consciousness?
You know what? I know of that, but I haven't read any of the information.
Okay, well, there are many maps of human development, but I like his because he talks about the vibration of our soul. And in David Hawkins' map, he talks about 0 to 1,000 is the span of what's possible for us as human beings in our vibration and our consciousness. And 0 to 200 is levels of fear and the toxic emotions. 200 is a level of courage. 400 is a level of reason. 500 is the level of love. And 700 is what classic enlightenment is, reaching that transcendent, joyful, ecstatic place in your vibration, in your being. And so every time you're able to shift into an enlightened voice, an enlightened experience, you raise your personal vibration to at least 700 on the vibrational scale. And the idea, if you can make that a permanent way of being, like the old meditation masters, how skillful, how effective can you be in dealing with all the circumstances in your life, and even more importantly, the circumstances that face our world today?
Right. So, I know why I want to be in an enlightened state. But can you explain to people who are sort of on the training right now, I know that you live in an enlightened state. How does that change your life? Like, why do you want to achieve this, and how does this make your life so delicious?
Well, I sort of came on this journey over many years, and I shared at the beginning very jokingly that I was a meth junkie. But if you can imagine someone who's an IV drug user, and not just a few times, but I mean about 8 years of most every weekend, there's a lot of psychic pain in a person who is using drugs at that level and just trying to escape a tremendous amount of suffering. And obviously then, being an IV drug user and a party person, there's a high price to pay for that kind of escapism. And so I turn to meditation, and I turn to the process of enlightenment just to end my suffering. And for the most part, that has happened. Those old wounds and the old trauma that haunted me for so many years, it just doesn't have an effect on me anymore. So I'm really free from a lot of that tragedy. And there's still some old sort of toxic emotions that are unwinding within me, but for the most part, I'm free to make choices. I'm free to choose happiness and joy and mercy and kindness and well-being, and to be the kind of man I want to be, as opposed to who I was programmed to be as a small kid growing up in rural Texas in the 60s.
Right. And the other thing is that you get to be on you on the board of the Center of Integral Wisdom, who is really helping to make some expanded, enlightened contributions to the world to raise the vibration of not just you, but for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And from what I know, like, from the work that I do, if we can raise our vibration from these negative lower vibrations that often that we live in, if we're in a place where we're struggling financially, or we don't have the relationship that we want, or our health isn't what we want, a lot of the times we seem to focus on what it is that we don't want and what our situation is right now, but those lower vibrations just keep us there. So to be able to do a modality like this where we can raise our vibration, so not only do we get to see a solution to the challenge that's facing us right now, but we also get to see such an amazingly bright future that not only are we an example for the people surrounding us, but then we get to see how we get to serve humanity and how we can step up in a really big way. And that's what excites me about this type of modality.
Yeah. Well, the question I always ask my students is, if you could raise your vibration to 700 or above, and I promise you I've done a lot of muscle testing with this particular body of work, and when we finish this evening, you're going to be exposed to a voice, a part of yourself that's already always there, but you probably haven't met yet, that is at the high 700 or low 800 vibrational scale, and you're going to be vibrating in that place. If you can do that every day and set your intentions and set your goals and allow that vibration then to serve every choice and every action that you take, who could you be? What more would be available for you?
Yeah. So I hope you're guaranteeing that I'm not going to spontaneously combust if I get to that level.
Well, it's hard to imagine you being more electric than you already are, but I think we can still up the vibration even some more.
No doubt, darling. I have no doubt. All right. So what should we do? Should we move into, an exercise that people can get to experience?
Yeah. Yes, let's just start the tapping, and let's ask if people in the chat, are you intrigued about this? Are you ready to try this weird tapping technique and take a journey with Natalie and myself and meet some of these other parts of yourselves, these extraordinary parts of you?
Yeah, so if you're here live with us, make sure that you type in, what you're feeling right now. Have you heard of tapping before? Are you excited about going through this process with the two of us? And actually, I say the two of us. Alan will be leading, and I will be the vibrational guinea pig. Which I'm well and truly willing to do.
Well, fortunately, you've shared this experience before, so you know a little bit of what you're in for.
I do, and that's why I'm so grateful to be here again, to be able to do this with you, which is so awesome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here I see some chat coming in here. Mm-hmm.
We got a few people who are ready.
Okay,
who are absolutely
great.
Ready.
All right. Well,
do we need to prepare? Do we need to do anything special to prepare?
Yeah, I just want to explain a couple of sort of baseline rules that will help you have an extraordinary experience this evening. So I'm going to ask to speak to a voice or a part or a subpersonality of you. We always start with a controller. So the first thing is, when I ask to speak to a voice, is actually move in your chair. It's the actual physical movement that it's sort of like, pressing your remote for your satellite dish or your television or your radio. It's that let's tune into a voice. And as you come to stillness, imagine that normal, everyday part of yourself that has so many preferences and concerns and worries and opportunities and challenges, that part of you is actually sitting on a chair close to you in your room, and that for this moment you are the voice that's been invited to speak. So, I'm the controller. I like to control what he senses, what she feels, what he thinks, what she does. I like to control everything I can. So that's the first thing. The second thing is speak from the I person. So I am the controller, and the self is over there. He's over there, she's over there, they're in third person, I'm in first person. And even though Natalie is the feedback person for the entire group, if you're someplace where you can talk to yourself and not like too much of a fool, speak out loud, because that sort of anchors the truth of the voice into your body and into your consciousness.
Yes.
The third thing is this is a practice of deep listening. So I might ask to speak to a voice, and I don't know what that means. I don't know what he's talking about. Just shift anyway and come to stillness and just listen deeply into your own body, into your own consciousness, and see what the voice is revealing to you about itself. Now, you'll hear me asking questions. You'll hear Natalie sharing things. People will be entering things into the chat about their experience with the voice. Some of them may be true, and some of them not so much. It's what's true for you that's important, and you sense that and feel that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a good point that you bring up. So as we're going through the process, did you want people that are here live to enter in some of their answers as we go along?
Absolutely, and I'll invite them to do that. Just say,
Okay.
I'll be asking you for your feedback, and I'll say, hey, for those in the chat, go ahead and enter with what you're talking about.
Okay. Sounds great. We've got a lot of people that are chomping at the bit, so to say.
Right? We've really built it up here, so I sure hope we deliver. All right, so you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
Okay, so I'm going to freeze the picture on you for a few minutes, and then when we start tapping, we'll shift over to me.
Okay.
All right, everybody, so please shifting in your chair, and let me speak to the voice of the controller. And who am I speaking to?
I am the controller.
And what's your job?
To control things.
Yeah. And you can just come to stillness when you're ready, whenever it feels good. And what are some of the things you control for her?
I control people in my life.
How does that work, by the way?
Works sometimes.
Excellent. Control them sometimes.
Yes. I try to control events.
Events, okay, great.
And opportunities.
Opportunities, excellent.
And I also try to control how things manifest for me.
Yeah, excellent. So you're very sophisticated as a controller in that sense, really looking at how she manifests opportunities and things.
It's interesting because my controller knows that the universe or God is really in charge, but yet I believe that I can still influence that through my controlling.
Yeah. So there's a part of her that believes that God's in charge, but as the controller, your job is, okay, now let's make that happen here.
Yes.
What can I do to maneuver events and circumstances and make all this happen?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me ask you this sort of from a body, mind, spirit perspective. As a controller, are you aware of the way you function and sort of all the sensations that go through her body, and how you can say, oh, we need to pay attention to that, or we need to be aware of that?
I feel sometimes I'll take on projects that are outside my comfort zone.
Uh-huh.
So I have that small freak out stage of not being in control.
Yeah.
Which I feel in my gut and in my chest.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Yeah,
And
go.
that's great. I was just going to say that flow of emotion. And so, like, oh, Natalie's just bit off more than I think she can handle. And there's that sort of a moment of panic. It's like, ooh, you really, that emotion sort of hijacks the show there for a moment.
Oh, it's more like, oh my God, you've done it again. You
Yeah,
keep the
excellent.
controller, be used to it by now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and even like in with her thoughts and sort of the different stories that she has in her mind, you sort of control as best you can which ones she pays attention to and which ones she lets go of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
you have a lot to do as the controller,
Yes.
you know.
I'm very busy all the time.
Very busy yeah, pretty much 24/7 it seems like.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that, the self is pretty particular about diet. So, you're the one sort of making sure she eats well and gets rested enough and is ready to show up beautiful, ready to do all these extraordinary things she volunteers or gets volunteered to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm making sure that she's always ready.
Yeah.
Even when she doesn't think she is,
Hmm.
I'm the one that steps up and gives her the confidence to keep moving forward.
Yeah. Excellent. So, as the controller, well, let me ask you this. What does she think about you, actually?
What does Natalie think about the controller?
Uh-huh.
The controller gives her a certain level of safety and
Okay.
security
Yeah, yeah.
because she knows that the controller sooner or later will step in.
Right. So she knows she can count on you to sort of step up and keep her safe and make sure she's secure and answer all the commitments that she's made.
Yeah. And when she
Excellent.
bites off more than she can chew, the controller helps her to know what steps she needs to take
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make things happen.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. So let me ask you this. One of your functions I have found over the years is you also control when the other voices that are part of the chorus of consciousness or sit at the table of consciousness, when they get the spotlight and when they get to speak up.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, and sort of what intensity they get to speak up at.
Yes. So the controller allows some voices on some subjects to talk louder than others.
Exactly. We don't want her to get into too much trouble.
True.
Yeah. All right, good. So it would make sense that I ask your permission to actually move forward with tonight's process and speak to some of those other voices.
Yes, that's okay.
Yeah, okay, great, great. And I'm going to ask two commitments for you. The first one, you mentioned safety and security. So if at any time during tonight's process you feel that she's threatened in any way, that you'll stop the process and let me know.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And the second, being the controller, is if we speak to another voice, you'll do your best and give me a crystal clear channel to those voices.
I can do that.
Okay, I'll bet you can. So, all right. Well, shall we do a little tapping?
Absolutely. Let's do
Okay,
it.
great. All right. So, everyone, just a few words about the kind of tapping that I do. I use what's called the short form. I'll demonstrate it for you in just a moment. It was made famous by Nick Ortner in the Tapping Solution book. Many of the top people, like Margaret Lynch, use the short form, and that's what we'll be using. If you have another form of tapping that you like and prefer, I'm not attached to it. It's perfectly okay with me. Just do what you enjoy. So the first tapping point is right here, the inside of the eye point, the outside of the eye point right here where the bones come together. Under the eye, there's a notch right here. It's called the zygomatic ridge in your skull. Under the nose, the chin point, and then right here in the upper body, it's where your collarbone meets your breastbone. There's a notch right there on both sides, and it's usually pretty tender. Now, you can use this one next couple or not, but about 4 inches underneath your armpit, there's a point right on your rib cage, on both sides, and that's a lymphatic. It's a water point. So that's, and then the final point is here at the top of the head. Now, different than many tapping people, I use both sides simultaneously. This is a meditation, and it is about balancing right and left hemispheres of the brain. And one of the byproducts that will happen will go from beta brain waves to alpha to theta to even to some low delta level brain waves in this process. So, but again, do what you're comfortable. So, Natalie, you ready to do some tapping?
Ready, steady, spaghetti.
Okay. I am the controller.
I am the controller.
And I just want to make sure everyone listening at home is comfortable. As Natalie is repeating what I'm saying, if you're in a place where you feel safe, also speak out loud, tap out loud with us, and this will help make sure you get the experience we promised. Okay. I'm the controller.
I am the controller.
And I am in control.
And I am in control.
I've had years to practice.
I've had years to practice.
Decades to practice.
Decades to practice.
And there is so much to control.
And there is so much to control.
What she senses in her body.
What she senses in her body.
What she feels.
What she feels.
What she thinks.
What she thinks.
What she does.
What she does.
What she wears.
What she wears.
What she commits to.
What she commits to.
All those projects and plans.
All those projects and plans.
Even though it's God's business.
Even though it's God's business.
She keeps asking me to take control.
She keeps asking me to take control.
Manifest it.
Manifest it.
Make it happen.
Make it happen.
Controlling other people.
Controlling other people.
Controlling circumstances and events.
Controlling circumstances and events.
I am one busy controller.
I am one busy controller.
And all of those voices in the personality.
And all of those voices in the personality.
All clamoring for their time in the spotlight.
All clamoring for their time in the spotlight.
And I have to decide who gets to speak when.
And I have to decide who gets to speak when.
And at what wattage.
And at what wattage.
That was good. I'm the controller.
I'm the controller.
And I am in control.
And I'm in control.
And I do give my permission to move forward tonight.
And I do give my permission to move forward tonight.
And speak to some of the other voices.
And speak to some of the other voices.
And I make two commitments.
And I make two commitments.
That if I feel threatened in any way for the self.
That if I feel threatened in any way for the self.
I'll stop the process.
I'll stop the process.
And when I do shift.
And when I do shift.
I'll give a crystal clear channel to those new voices.
I'll give a crystal clear channel to those new voices.
I'm the controller.
I'm the controller.
I keep the self safe and secure.
I keep the self safe and secure.
And I've done my job for years and years.
I've done my job for years and years.
24/7.
24/7.
Never a day off for me.
Never a day off for me.
I work diligently for the self.
I work diligently for the self.
Because I love the self.
Because I love the self.
I'm the controller.
I'm the controller.
And take a breath and just sit back. Actually have a sip of water if you're comfortable, if you've got one. And just sort of look deep into yourself. And for those of you at home, if you want to enter something into the chat about what you're sensing and feeling about your controller. And Natalie, what are you sensing in your body? What do you notice?
I notice that there's a flow of energy.
Mm-hmm. Where do you sense that?
I actually feel it throughout my body, to be honest. And but there's a sense of calmness. Like I'm at ease. Controller is at ease and feeling safe.
And yet there's this energy moving through and a sense of calmness and at ease. It's like I'm in control and it's all good.
Absolutely.
Okay, beautiful. So, what else do you notice?
Um, I did. You know what? I really just noticed peace. I just
Mm-hmm.
at peace,
Mm-hmm.
and very open.
Beautiful. Okay, great, great. And anybody want to uh, enter? I see a Satori's on the line. I'm wondering if that's a mutual friend of ours. So, um, could well be. Hello, Satori. You've come to the right place. So, if you want to enter something into the chat, what are you sensing and feeling as the controller? I just love that big breath, just the ease, the way your body just moved with that. Okay. So people is entering in. I've heard of tapping and ready to try it. Try it again. Beautiful. Okay. All right. Well, let's just move on. I'm ready to speak to another voice. Okay.
Okay.
All right. You're ready to shift. Please let me speak to the voice of desire and moving in your chair. And who am I speaking to?
To the voice of desire.
Okay, great. And what do you desire?
I desire recognition.
Recognition, beautiful.
I am making a difference,
Making a difference.
and I desire love.
And you desire love, beautiful. Make a difference, recognition, desire love. What else? What do you desire?
I desire being in environments where I can see through the work that I do that I'm actually helping to make a change.
Yeah, so you love being in environments where you can really see the impact of the work that you do and that you are making a difference. Yeah,
Absolutely. It
yeah.
feeds my soul like nothing else.
Yeah, so you desire to have your soul nourished and fed.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So, those are some sort of inspired, beautiful qualities of desire, but how about just passion and chocolate and pleasures of the body as well?
Well, we always after some, pleasure of the body. Like, let's be.
Yeah. Well, that's
No
why I
one's
wanted to
going to
speak
say
to
no to
you.
that.
There's always the pleasure of a good
I would never
martini,
say no
dude.
to that.
Well, I think they're all important, so that's why I wanted to speak to you for a
Exactly.
minute. Yeah,
But here's the thing: we're having this human experience, and that human experience for me does mean deep passion,
yeah,
and bodily satisfaction and cheese and good wine and amazing conversation and fantastic friends and you know really enjoying everything that the human experience has to offer.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And can you sense how much energy you have as a voice and how much energy you bring to the body and to her life?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. Okay, now I want to speak to sort of a little more sophisticated part of you. Can I speak to the one who seeks the way? And just shifting again. And now tell me, what are you seeking? And you sort of already referenced a little bit of that.
Mm. I am seeking the way.
Yeah, the way.
Yeah. I'm seeking the way to transform children's lives
Uh-huh. Yeah,
and the
beautiful.
way to help women step into a very feminine, empowered form of leadership.
Yeah. So helping, a desire, seeking that way to help children and impact their lives and to help women step into their own power and authority.
Yes. In
Yeah.
a way that's true to who they are and in their
Right.
feminine power.
Right. So I would say that's true for you too, finding that way that you can step forward in your own feminine power and help other women do that.
Yes, I hope to be a role model for other women.
Yeah. So seeking to be a role model for other women. And I dare say other men as well.
Yes.
Yeah. At least the smart men.
Yeah. you know. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. All right, great. Well, what are some of the things that you've studied or worked on or learned as you've been seeking the way?
I'm actually working on a program for children, which is starting to expand exponentially around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I currently have teachers in Dubai and Australia and America
Right.
and Colombia teaching this program.
Yeah.
And the plan is to go at quite a big scale for that next year.
Right. So you've been learning and stretching and seeking just, how to make a network, worldwide network like this.
Exactly. And it's interesting because if I let my logical brain step in, I left school when I was 15 and I don't have children myself. So who am I to step up into this mission, into this purpose?
Mm-hmm.
And yet everything that I've needed has fallen into place for this to happen. So it's something I just couldn't walk away from.
Right.
Very interesting.
So you really spoke to something, so like, oh, there's the logical mind, but then there's this part of you that just sort of surrenders to what life's bringing you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I always asked for very broad things, like how can I change children's lives?
Mm-hmm.
And and then the universal God will send me whatever it does, and it's like, okay, well, that's not what I was thinking or hoping for, which is then the controller will step in after that and go, okay, let's make this happen. But yeah, but I have that surrender of asking for the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll ask for the way, and then when it's presented to me, just figuring out as I go.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Mm.
All right. So let me ask you this. As the seeking part, how often do you find?
I always find.
You always find.
I
Well, let
always.
me ask you this. How long does it last?
It lasts. It
Okay.
lasts. It's an
Okay.
ongoing process,
Okay, great.
and I surrendered to the fact that it is a lifelong, ongoing process,
Right. Right.
and that there's always another level and there's always another layer.
Okay,
But
great.
I revel in the journey, and I revel in the day to day, and the messiness, and the freakiness, and the stepping outside the comfort zone. I have learned to embrace it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and let me say for you and our audience, you're a very sophisticated teacher and leader. So let me just say, many people, get caught in the seeking, and it's often another voice whose job it is to find.
Right.
And so what I'm hearing you say is that you've also developed that voice of finding, and they work well together. So many people on the audience and many people that I work with haven't quite developed that finding voice just yet. And that's part of what this enlightened tapping will help them do.
Right.
So I often hear people, they've studied psychology and philosophy and religion and sociology and law of attraction and self-help and shamanism and many different things, but they still haven't quite found that place where there's no pain, there's no suffering. They haven't quite found their joy or their purpose yet.
Yeah, they sound like perpetual seekers.
Yeah, and I know I was for years, and I know I got stuck there, but fortunately I finally was able to find and start to cultivate and heal that part of mine that was addicted to seeking. So that's the trick of interviewing someone like you, Natalie. You're so sophisticated that you're above and beyond most people. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So will you do a little tapping with me, and knowing that I'm going to use some words that I often hear from other people who do get stuck in the seeking mind?
Yep,
'Cause I'm sure that,
absolutely.
okay, great. All right. So everybody, I invite you to tap with me. I am the seeking mind.
I am a seeking mind.
I am the voice of desire,
I am the voice of desire,
and I am the voice of the one who seeks the way.
and I'm the voice of the one who seeks the way.
And I am seeking, seeking, seeking,
And I am seeking, seeking, seeking,
seeking recognition
seeking recognition
to make a difference.
to make a difference,
to feel love,
to feel love,
to feel the pleasures of the body and of life,
to feel the pleasures of the body and of life,
to desire being a body having a human experience,
to desire being a body having a human experience,
and having a soul having a human experience.
and having a soul having a human experience.
And I'm seeking my soul purpose,
And I'm seeking my soul purpose,
how to help children in the world
how to help children in the world
and women in the world
and women in the world,
and even a few smart men,
and even a few smart men,
so that they can all step into their personal authority
so they can all step into their personal authority
and be responsible for their own choices
and be responsible for their own choices
and free from the life that they were originally born to.
and free from the life that they were originally born to.
I'm seeking a world with no suffering,
I'm seeking a world with no suffering,
and that we can all celebrate together.
that we can all celebrate together.
And I have been seeking.
And I have been seeking.
Sometimes I find.
Sometimes I find.
Sometimes it lasts.
Sometimes it lasts.
Sometimes it's fleeting.
Sometimes it's fleeting.
Because she keeps biting off more than we can chew.
Because she keeps biting off more than we can chew.
Jumping off another cliff.
Jumping off another cliff.
I mean, I dropped out of school when I was 15.
And I dropped out of school when I was 15.
And I don't have children.
And I don't have children.
But who am I to think that I can impact children all over the world?
But who am I to think that I can impact children all over the world?
But here I am.
But here I am.
I surrender and say yes to life.
I surrender and say yes to life.
I set an intention to help the children of the world.
I set an intention to help the children of the world.
And now there are pieces all over the world.
And now there are pieces all over the world.
Moving into place.
Moving into place.
To support me and my intention.
To support me and my intention.
And I love it.
And I love it.
I am seeking.
I am seeking.
And I'm willing to find.
And I am willing to find.
And I am willing to live finding 24/7.
And I'm willing to live finding 24/7.
Letting go of seeking.
Letting go of seeking.
And living into finding.
And living into finding.
And I am the one who seeks the way.
I'm the one who seeks the way.
And take a breath and shift. Have a sip of water if you're comfortable. And just looking deeply into yourself. And what do you sense? What do you notice? For those in the audience, enter that in the chat. And I see a couple questions that have come in. I'll answer those. And Natalie,
I feel an excitement. I feel like in my chest, I feel these like butterflies. Yes, like it's excitement.
Yeah, beautiful. What else are you sensing?
Anticipation.
Having a flash of Tim Curry here. Anticipation.
Exactly. I'm feeling like anticipation, excitement, and it kind of like a knowing that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out.
Beautiful. Let me check. Let's see. Elizabeth says, I feel satisfied. Bobby's, I'm anchored. Kirsten says, calmness and excitement at the same time. Lisa asks, is it normal for under the arm area to feel sensitive? Absolutely, yes, it is. And also that point where the clavicle, the collarbone comes to the breastbone, both those points can be tender. And as you tap over time, they'll become, less sensitive. So that's an excellent question. Doris says, is there a way to get a PDF printout of the progression and location of the tapping points? And absolutely there is, and I'll make sure that that gets added to the replay so that you can see that. I did the tapping, but it was not my story. That's the challenge of having one echo in an entire audience of people. Normally, this is done live in a group. I've facilitated over 100+ people in this process, and literally thousands of people at this point. And so there's always that room for you to hear and share your experience. We're really using Natalie as the feedback loop, so we weren't quite privy to the whole story of the community. So so I just invite you to honor what you're sensing and feeling in this voice in your body right now, and just see if we have enough of an opening, because we're about to shift into one of the enlightened voices. So, anything else, Nat?
No, just feeling fantastic. This is better than a glass of wine.
And this is after a busy full day, so
I've had a hectic day, so this is just what the doctor ordered.
yeah, well, perfect. Well, we're just about to now really move into the high vibration voices. So I like to think in terms of, we've been working with the voices of the separate self, and the voice of the controller, the voice of desire, the voice of the one who seeks the way. And traditionally, there's that grand canyon of consciousness. People would sit and meditate for months or years in a monastery before they would even have a flash. But I invite you now to cross that grand canyon of consciousness and let me speak to one of the enlightened voices. So everybody shifting in your chair, please let me speak to the stillness of pure being, and shifting in your chair. And who am I speaking to?
You're speaking to pure being.
Okay, great. So tap with me at this point. I am the stillness of pure being.
I am the stillness of pure being.
I am exquisite stillness.
I am exquisite stillness.
I am the stillness at the heart of all the universes.
I am the stillness at the heart of all universes.
I am beyond the beyond.
I am beyond the beyond.
I am beyond the Alpha and the Omega.
I'm beyond the Alpha and the Omega.
I am beyond beginnings and endings.
I'm beyond beginnings and endings.
I am beyond borders and boundaries.
I'm beyond borders and boundaries.
I am beyond all birth and death.
I'm beyond all birth and death.
I am vast spaciousness.
I am vast spaciousness.
I am eternal emptiness.
I am eternal emptiness.
I am infinite nothingness.
I am infinite nothingness.
I am the field of pure potentiality.
I am the field of pure potentiality.
I am the nothingness that gives birth to nothingness.
I am the nothingness that gives birth to nothingness.
And I am the great paradox.
And I'm the great paradox.
I am the nothingness that gives birth to all things.
I am the nothingness that gives birth to all things.
All things arise within me.
All things arise within me.
Universes.
Universes.
Galaxies.
Galaxies.
Solar systems.
Solar systems.
Stars.
Stars.
Worlds.
Worlds.
Bodies.
Bodies.
Beings.
Beings.
And all things dissolve into me.
And all things dissolve into me.
I am the stillness that witnesses everything.
I am the stillness that witnesses everything.
The rising and falling of all things.
The rising and falling of all things.
The dissolving back into nothingness.
The dissolving back into nothingness.
The stillness at the heart of all things.
The stillness at the heart of all things.
The peace that goes beyond all understanding.
The peace that goes beyond all understanding.
I am exquisite stillness.
I am exquisite stillness.
I am the witness.
I am the witness.
I am non-attachment.
I am not attachment.
I am the intelligence that directs the universes.
I'm the intelligence that directs the universes.
And yet I am unattached to the response.
And yet I am unattached to the response.
I am the stillness of pure being.
I am the stillness of pure being.
Vast spaciousness.
Vast spaciousness.
Eternal emptiness.
Eternal emptiness.
Infinite nothingness.
Infinite nothingness.
And everybody's sitting upright, taking a deep breath. And just allowing your breath to rise and to fall. And noticing that pause at the rising and the falling of every breath. And notice that pause expanding and opening within you. Each pause expanding into infinity, into spaciousness, beyond every border and boundary of the self. Each breath taking you beyond the beyond. And just take a moment and let the high vibration of this voice and the sacred words of this voice resonate through your entire being. And for those of you in our audience, enter into the chat. What are you sensing? What are you feeling? And Natalie, if you would share with us, what do you sense? What do you notice?
I know this might sound strange, but I feel coherent.
Cool. Beautiful. Beautiful.
It's like I have this vibration happening, but it's coherent with everything.
Yeah. You're attuned to all that is.
Yeah.
In your awareness, can you sort of sense your awareness sort of opening on into spaciousness?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, opening to infinity.
Yeah.
So this is classic enlightenment right here.
Like an expansion into everything that is, all that is, and being one with everything.
Yeah, that's it. One with everything. There's the old Zen master joke who goes up to the hot dog stand and says, "Make me one with everything." Little Zen humor there. Dara saying she feels connection. Beautiful, thank you.
Good word, connection.
Yeah.
Good word.
Well, and I love that coherence, that energy vibration, because the dissonance in the separate self, when you can really transcend that and come into vibrational harmony with the whole universe, like, wow, I've come home. This is who I am.
Like when we did it the couple of taps ago, like I felt like a surge of energy through my body, but this is more like I know I'm sitting still, but my body feels like it's swaying like this on the inside in waves, which is in coherence with all that is.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Well, if this were a retreat, we would take the luxury of sitting for an hour or 90 minutes just in this energy and play with it and tap with it and tease it. But we don't have that luxury of a retreat. We've got a 90-minute demonstration. So, you ready to speak to another enlightened voice, another aspect of yourself?
I am, yes.
Okay, great. Please let me speak to the unconditional love of the Divine Mother. And shifting in your chairs, everybody. And who am I speaking to?
You're speaking to the Divine Mother.
And tap with me. I am unconditional love.
I am unconditional love.
I am the Divine Mother.
I'm the Divine Mother.
I am the unconditional love of the Divine Mother.
I'm the unconditional love of the Divine Mother.
I am ecstatic love.
I'm ecstatic love.
I am beyond the beyond.
I'm beyond the beyond.
I too am vast spaciousness.
I too am vast spaciousness.
Eternal emptiness.
Eternal emptiness.
Infinite nothingness.
Infinite nothingness.
But as the Divine Mother, I give birth to all things.
I give birth to all things.
I transform energy into matter itself.
I transform energy into matter itself.
The universe is my own body.
The universe is my own body.
And my heart center.
And my heart center.
Is the heart center of every conscious being.
Is the heart center of every conscious being.
I give birth to all things.
I give birth to all things.
I give birth to the 5 elements.
I give birth to the 5 elements.
Earth.
Earth.
Water.
Water.
Fire.
Fire.
Air.
Air.
Ether.
Ether.
I give birth to time and space.
I give birth to time and space.
I give birth to past, present, and future.
I give birth to past, present, and future.
I give birth to the 10 directions.
I give birth to the 10 directions.
I give birth to heaven and earth.
I give birth to heaven and earth.
The 4 cardinal points.
The 4 cardinal points.
And every direction in between.
And every direction in between.
The entire universe is woven with my love.
The entire universe is woven with my love.
It pulses with my heart center.
It pulses with my heart center.
The great Om.
The great Om.
My love song.
My love song.
Is heard in every corner of creation.
Is heard in every corner of creation.
The very fabric of the universe is my unconditional love.
The very fabric of the universe is my unconditional love.
And I love all of my creation.
And I love all of my creation.
I love every aspect of every conscious being.
I love every aspect of every conscious being.
No matter where they are in the evolution of consciousness.
No matter where they are in the evolution of consciousness.
I love the pirate, the thug, and the bully.
I love the pirate, the thug, and the bully.
Equally as I love my sacred saints.
Equally as much as I love my sacred saints.
It is my unconditional love.
It is my unconditional love.
That brings all consciousness to wholeness.
That brings all consciousness to wholeness.
I am compassion.
I am compassion.
Kindness.
Kindness.
Mercy.
Mercy.
Infinite patience.
Infinite patience.
It is my unconditional love.
It is my unconditional love.
That heals all wounds and separation.
That heals all wounds and separations.
And allows every conscious being.
And allows every conscious being.
To come to their own wholeness and enlightenment.
To come to their own wholeness and enlightenment.
I am unconditional love.
I am unconditional love.
I am the Divine Mother.
I am the Divine Mother.
All of creation is luminous with my light and my love.
All of life is luminous with my light and my love.
I am the Divine Mother.
I am the Divine Mother.
I am delicious, unconditional love.
I am delicious, unconditional love.
And shaking that out, take a breath, and just coming, sitting upright. Having a sip of water. And just noticing your heart center and every breath, radiant like a star. Each breath, that star, pulsing light, luminous love to every corner of creation. All the created universes into infinite nothingness. And that light of your heart center, pulsing love to every conscious being in the created universes. Sensing how unshakable you are, inexhaustible in your loving. And for those in the audience, if you want to enter something into the chat, what are you sensing? What are you feeling as the Divine Mother? We'll come back to Natalie. It looks like the lights have dimmed where you are.
Yes, I need to turn some lights on. But I feel like my chest is like cracked open.
Uh-huh.
And I feel, and I don't know what it's like to feel like a mother other than for my little Bella, my little puppy. But I feel like I have a responsibility or a love for everything on the planet.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I'm a firm believer. My Zen master Genpo Roshi said that it was um, our ability to love our four-legged friends, our pets, our animals, um, that helps us connect with that unconditional quality of our love.
You can see me now.
So Gree says that she's sensing peace. Kay asks, how often do you quiet yourself and do the tapping? Well, I usually meditate every morning, about 30 to 40 minutes with this process. And then just whenever I feel like it during the day, I'll shift into a particular voice. I may or may not tap. If it's in a place that's safe to do that, I sure do. Dar asked about the 10 directions. It's heaven and earth and the four cardinal points. That's north, south, east, and west, and just every direction within. It's just really the sense of the Divine Mother turns energy into reality. So she actually gives birth to time and space. Without the Divine Mother, we would all just be infinite awareness and energy. So it's that dance of the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and it's the mother who gives birth to all of us.
Yeah.
So that's you. So can you sort of sense that infinity?
Expansion. I feel like my chest is cracked open, my heart is expanded. I just feel this full expansion and this love and responsibility for everything on the planet.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. And this is very helpful to me. Can you sense that quality of I'm unshakable, I'm inexhaustible? It's like just, I'm the source of the universes, so I can handle anything, that any circumstance that arises.
Yeah. It's that and wisdom as well. It's like I know that I have, the answers to the next step or to the question or to the, to whatever is coming up, and an answer that seems to be in alignment with what we need or what the planet needs right now.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Um, there's a function of you as a divine mother called the sword of compassion that, is that sort of justice that really stands up to suffering and cruelty and ignorance and just says no more.
Mm.
And no matter what comes, no matter what army of ignorance, and you're there, inexhaustible.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah, I know. I find that I haven't watched the news for 12 years. I just can't. But even recently, I haven't been able to watch like, you know, um, not even violent, but just like, bad shows that
Hmm.
that are just showing the worst of humanity. I can't watch those shows. I think they're worse than like a horror thing because that's fake. But when it's humans hurting other humans or
Hmm.
humans hurting animals, it affects me so deeply.
Yeah. Well, you still get plenty of that on Facebook of,
But you have a choice on Facebook, and I
yeah,
know I'll look at a video and it'll be some rescue dog that's got scabies and everything, and I'll go, I know it's going to end well, but I can't watch the beginning of it.
yeah,
So I have the choice.
yeah. What I love about the Divine Mother and this voice is the capacity to hold all that suffering. The pirate and the bully and the thug that is a perpetrator, and understand, oh, they're wounded. They're damaged in their own way, and
I
to
do.
be able to hold that with compassion and still say with that sword, enough is enough. It's
Yeah.
it's not right. It's inappropriate. It must stop.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I understand that. I understand that, like hurt kids hurt. And and with bullies in schools, I mean, the kids that are bullying are just as hurt as the kids that are getting bullied.
hmm
So I get it and I understand it. Um, but yeah, you're right. It's like this feeling of I want to help the bulliers as well as the bullies.
yeah, yeah.
And
Well, and that's part of what you're doing with your network of children is when you help them claim their own authority and their own power, they don't need to be victims or bullies.
yeah,
They're really free to make that choice. So beautiful. All right. Well, we've got a few more minutes before our demonstration's over, and so this is the evolution and enlightenment. We're going to ask to speak to one more voice. So we started speaking to voices of the separate self. The controller, desire, the one who seeks the way. And we went to that, across that Grand Canyon of consciousness, to the enlightened voices of the Divine Mother and the stillness of pure being, another way of saying the Divine Father. And so now I want you to imagine those are actually the basis of a pyramid. And I'm going to ask to speak to a voice now that goes to the peak of the pyramid and goes to the apex of consciousness. So I'm going to use a term, Natalie. Let me speak to the rainbow unique self, and shifting in your chair. And who am I speaking to?
the rainbow unique self.
Beautiful. And tapping with me. I am the rainbow unique self.
I am the rainbow unique self.
I am the peak of the pyramid of consciousness.
I'm the peak of the pyramid of consciousness.
I am, I integrate and embody all aspects of consciousness.
I embody and integrate all aspects of consciousness.
The 10,000 voices of the separate self.
The 10,000 voices of the separate self.
The controller and the protector.
The controller and the protector.
The cynic and the skeptic.
The cynic and the skeptic.
The wounded self.
The wounded self.
And the innocent, vulnerable child.
And the innocent, vulnerable child.
The seeking mind and the avoiding mind.
The seeking mind and the avoiding mind.
I fully integrate, transcend, and include all of them.
I fully integrate, transcend, and include all of them.
I transcend, include, and integrate all the enlightened voices.
I transcend, include, and integrate all the enlightened voices.
Big mind and big heart.
Big mind and big heart.
The Divine Mother and the Divine Father.
The Divine Mother and the Divine Father.
The Witness.
The Witness.
Non-attachment.
Non-attachment.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
The Sword of Compassion.
The Sword of Compassion.
The Divine Priestess.
The Divine Priestess.
The enlightened qualities of all the archetypes.
The enlightened qualities of all the archetypes.
The enlightened qualities of all the gods and goddesses.
The enlightened qualities of all the gods and goddesses.
Are all fully integrated into me.
Are all fully integrated into me.
The Rainbow Unique Self.
The Rainbow Unique Self.
In 13.5 billion years of evolution.
In 13.5 billion years of evolution.
I am unique in all of creation.
I am unique in all of creation.
I am on the evolutionary edge of creation.
I am on the evolutionary edge of creation.
A child of the universe.
A child of the universe.
In service to the highest universal good.
In service to the highest universal good.
I am the Rainbow Unique Self.
I am the Rainbow Unique Self.
All of my chakras, meridians, and energy body.
All of my chakras, meridians, and energy bodies.
Are pulsing with a spectrum of color.
Are pulsing with a spectrum of color.
From infrareds to ultraviolets.
From infrareds to ultraviolets.
And with every breath and every gesture.
And with every breath and every gesture.
I embody my soul purpose.
I embody my soul purpose.
Wisdom and compassion.
Wisdom and compassion.
Presence and awareness.
Presence and awareness.
Expressing itself in my own unique way.
Expressing itself in my own unique way.
I weave the tapestries of energy.
I weave the tapestries of energy.
With skill and mastery.
With skill and mastery.
I create tapestries of health and vitality.
I create tapestries of health and vitality.
Every day and every breath bringing more strength, flexibility, and grace.
Every day with every breath bringing more strength, flexibility, and grace.
I weave tapestries of intimacy.
I weave tapestries of intimacy.
Radical honesty and deep intimacy.
Radical honesty and deep intimacy.
Ecstatic loving of every conscious being.
Ecstatic loving of every conscious being.
And I weave tapestries of wealth.
And I weave tapestries of wealth.
My work, career, and service.
My work, career, and service.
Creating multiple streams of wealth.
Creating multiple streams of wealth.
In service to the highest universal good.
In service to the highest universal good.
And I weave tapestries of peak performance.
And I weave tapestries of peak performance.
As an artist.
As an artist.
As a leader.
As a leader.
As a conscious being.
As a conscious being.
I take my place as a co-creator in evolution.
I take my place as a co-creator in evolution.
As I evolve and heal and grow.
As I evolve and heal and grow.
The universe itself evolves, heals, and grows.
The universe itself evolves, heals, and grows.
And as new and subtle energies come online in the universe,
and as new and subtle energies come online in the universe,
I weave them just as skillfully.
I weave them just as skillfully.
I have access to all the wisdom that's ever been
I have access to all the wisdom that's ever
and
been
all the wisdom that ever will be.
and all the wisdom that ever will be.
I am the rainbow unique self.
I am the rainbow unique self.
Full access to the infinite and the eternal,
Full access to the infinite and the eternal.
but I am immediately alive now in this precious moment.
But I immediately live now in this precious moment.
I love what is.
I love what is.
I am here now.
I'm here now.
I am the rainbow unique self.
I'm the rainbow unique self.
And take a breath, shake that out, have a sip of water, and let the high vibration of this voice resonate completely through your being. And the sacred words of this voice to ripple through your entire being into infinity and beyond. And just take a moment. And for those of you in the audience, what are you sensing? What are you feeling as we come back to Natalie? Hello, darling.
Hello.
What are you sensing? What are you feeling?
Just peace.
Peace.
Expansion and peace.
Expansion and peace. What do you sense in your body?
I can feel it like just here. So it's not stomach. Well, it's probably just above the stomach, but this glow. It's like heat, like a glow that's coming out.
And it's solar plexus just above the belly there.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a glow, a radiant sun. It's beautiful because that is the spot of sort of the personality, personal power. Right. And so this voice is all about connecting to the infinite, but expressing itself through the higher self into and through the personality.
Wow.
You feel like whatever will arise, you can skillfully handle just, with intuition and know the right thing.
I think the trick is to keep tapping into this. Knee-jerk reaction when something comes up and you're not, well, for me, I won't talk for other people, but, and I'm not sure what to do next. I'm freaking out a little bit. But if I tap into this, it'd be like, be no problem.
Handle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I have to remember to tap back into this feeling, into this expansion. Because from here, I can handle anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, anything that happens in the created universes, you can handle it from this vibration, this place. So anything that happens in our world, it's like, handled.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So Teresa entered that she feels a relief that there are more voices or parts of me that aren't dark and evil. Absolutely, sister. And that's part of the beauty of this work is there's 10,000 enlightened voices and there's 10,000 unique self voices. So many facets of you that are extraordinary, and they're just waiting for you to claim them and embody them. And that'll help you work with those voices of, the infinite and the eternal. And that'll help you work with those voices of, the of the emotions and those defenses that keep hijacking us back into old behaviors and patterns. So, so if you want
Those voices, don't we? We all have those voices
we
that
do.
keep telling us why we can't do anything and give you a gazillion reasons, why you should have that piece of chocolate cake, or, why you don't need to make those sales calls, or whatever that is. But you don't hear them when you're in this place.
Hmm. Right. That voice either becomes really, really quiet, or it's just there's enough distance that no matter what the voice says, it's like, I'm so much more than my body. I'm so much more than my heart. I'm so much more than my mind.
Yeah.
And so you can just sort of watch that voice just talking and talking, talking, but it's like, I don't have to pay attention to it. So.
Yeah.
Well, here we are. We're 90 minutes into our presentation, and we promised an introduction to Enlightened Tapping and a demonstration, and I feel like we have really delivered on our promise.
Yeah, I'm floating right now. But I can see, I can see how useful being able to get to this point would be in any aspect of my life, like in my relationships, and when I am looking at ways to create wealth in my life, or if I'm looking at how I can serve and I can step up in that contribution place. If I'm operating from a place like this, I feel like anything is possible, and that it's easier for me to see a solution, or to come up with that inspired, intuitive hit that I know in my bones is the direction that I need to take. I kind of feel like I have that whole confidence, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I know I've done this once before, but it was so long ago, and I don't remember having this experience, or this much of an enlightened experience last time as I've had this time. Maybe I'm in a different place. Yeah.
Well, and that also speaks to something important. It's like, okay, so everyone that's watching is going to get a link to the replay, and I invite you to go back and do this process. Well, Elizabeth just asked the question.
You must have felt that in your orders. That question comes through just at the same time.
So there is a replay, and so some of you will have had an extraordinary experience tonight. You do it again tomorrow, it'll be deeper and richer and fuller. And for those of you that maybe sort of had, I felt some stillness, I felt some peace, or I could really feel my heart open to the Divine Mother. When you do this again, it just takes it to another level and another level and another level. The first time I did this process with my teacher, Genpo Roshi, who's in TLC with you, I was just able to go to Big Mind. And it was a life-changing event for me. It was the first time I had transcended my suffering. It was the first time I had actually been pain-free in my adult life. And it put me on the path to learn how to share this work, and the tapping and the things that I've added to that have all come from that moment of freedom.
And I love your story, because you came from a place of pain, but still you were seeking. It wasn't like you were comfortable with the pain, like you were still looking for something as well. So you're the kind of teacher, or the kind of leader who, it's not like you're talking theory. I mean, you've been through it yourself.
Yeah.
You've been through the pain, and you know what it's like to get through to that.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if if people are watching this, or they're watching the replay, and they want to work further with you, how can they do that?
Well, beautiful. And so I'd like your permission to make an invitation to everybody on the audience. And if you're in the audience that would like to know how to go deeper into this work, then just enter something into the chat. And we'll come back and answer a few questions at the end. But let me move on to an invitation. So.
Yeah, because, this is, obviously we only tipped the iceberg tonight, right?
You're right. Like I said, 10,000 voices of the separate self, 10,000 voices of the enlightened self, and 10,000 voices of the unique self. You could dance with these voices in these subtle vibrationary states of enlightenment, to your heart's delight.
Wow.
So here's something about the enlightened tapping meditation. And I just like to add a little fun and cleverness there. So we've given you a 90-minute experience, and we've delivered on it. So now a word from our sponsor. Um, and let me just say a few things that people are sharing about this work. Barbara Marx Hubbard is a best-selling author, an amazing teacher. She's considered the grande dame of evolutionary consciousness, and I had the privilege to share this work in her home, in her living room, with a small group of people. And she's been writing about Homo co-creator, that's what she calls her evolutionary edge of human consciousness, and for 20 years. And I said, okay, well, let's speak to the voice of Homo co-creator. And we tapped with the voice and we dialogued with the voice. And all of a sudden she jumps up and says, oh my God, I've been writing about this for 20 years, but it's the first time I've actually felt it from the inside out.
Wow. Now that's saying something because, like you said, she's been doing this work. Barbara's well into her 80s or 90s now.
Yeah, she's 85. She's 85.
Her life has been dedicated to this.
Yeah. Well, she was so inspired by what happened. She actually came to Houston, and we did a one-night event here in Houston with the IONS group. And we're going to collaborate some more, so I'm thrilled about that. Let's see. This is Lori Layden. She is the director of the Tapping Solution Foundation, and she's the founder of Project Light Rwanda. And she's a pioneer herself, working with EFT tapping and her grace process. And she's had amazing results working with widows and orphans in Rwanda who were victims of the genocide, helping them heal their trauma and actually step into entrepreneurship and becoming ambassadors for their lives. And now all of her graduate students in Rwanda are leaders in their community. And she calls Enlightened tapping the future of tapping. And this is my friend Sheila Paxton, and she said something that I hear over and over and over and over again, in that she is a recovering alcoholic, has been sober for over 20 years, and meditation, as you may know, is one of the 12 steps. And in her 20 years of sobriety, she studied transcendental meditation, mindfulness, kundalini, and she was not able to find anything that would help her quiet that voice in her head, or what they say in Buddhism is the monkey mind. And in 20 minutes of enlightened tapping, she went to the most amazing place of peace and said she's just never experienced anything like it in her life. So here is the Enlightened Tapping Evolutionary Meditation Home Study course. It is an online training. It's 6 weeks, 6 modules. Every module goes through the process you went through tonight. Goes from the voices of the separate self to the enlightened self to the peak of the pyramid and the the unique self voices. So you get that over and over and over, but we use the dialogue process of sort of shining the spotlight on different voices. So the first week we work deeper with the controller than we did tonight. In the second week we work with the protector, and then going on to the enlightened voices and the peak of the pyramid. The third week we focus on the wounded self and the innocent child, and then going into the enlightened voices. And then we begin to shift the focus in week 4, focusing on different facets of the Divine Father. And then week 5 we work on the different facets of the Divine Mother. Unconscious love, the sword of compassion, the warrior priestess, and then fully integrating her as the Divine Mother. And then week 6 is the 5 stages of enlightenment. And that's an entire amazing 75-minute process in and of itself that we go through. And that is yours. You own the program. Once you make the investment, you download it. to your computer, your smartphone, your tablet. You can stream it from the web, whatever you prefer. There's a 255-page workbook. Incredibly proud of that. It has the transcriptions of all the tapping scripts so that you can flip it open and actually repeat each of the tapping with each of the voices that you want on demand. So that's the program itself. Then there are a series of bonuses, of course, 6 live calls with me online to walk you through basically the 6 modules, but I'm sharing with you my recent insights and understanding of each of the voices in the process. You get those. You get a free ticket to my Enlightened Tapping Experience event in Houston, January 22nd to 24th. So you come as a guest. If you've had a great experience now, imagine what doing 3 days of this would be like. And actually, Natalie, our mutual friend Tristan will be doing the Qigong every day in the mornings, and then speaking at the event about the embodiment process of enlightenment.
Well, he is the master. So.
Yes, he is. He and Sabrina both. This is something that I'm really proud of. People, you might be wondering, how can I make this a daily practice? How can I do this on my own? And I'm all about, introducing you to the practice, and I'm happy to be a guide for you, but I want you to own this process. I want you to step into your own personal authority and claim these parts of yourself and embody them for yourself so that you don't need a guide. You can really become your own inner guru. And to that end, what I've done is taken the tapping scripts from each of the voices and then added a silent 5-minute meditation so that you can sit in the wisdom of that voice and the vibration and energy of that voice. And so you can mix and match and create your own mixtape or playlist or whatever, voices of the separate self, voices of the enlightened self, or the peak of the pyramid, voices of the unique self. So you can create that. Again, it's all downloadable in audio, in video, or you can stream it from the web, whichever you prefer. Then Natalie mentioned my best-selling book, Body Brilliance. We're actually going to ship you, wherever you are in the world, a physical copy of the book, because this is about the embodiment process. So it's how you take these amazing states and turn them into permanent traits. So this will help you. And I'm proud to say it is one of the most beautiful books in the entire universe. Mm. You get access to our exclusive Enlightened Tapping Meditation Facebook community. We just run a 30-day challenge. It finished yesterday. We ran that through the Facebook group. That group is on fire with the excitement and the enthusiasm. And then I have a bonus that is not advertised. It's just for people that are on tonight's hangout with me and Natalie. If you invest in the program tonight, I will give you a 30-minute one-on-one session with me to personally facilitate you in this process and help you access your enlightened state. So that I don't do much one-on-one work anymore, and Natalie knows as a business consultant that my hour-long one-on-one sessions are $1,500 a piece. Yeah. So I'm offering you something really special here because I want you to make sure you can tap and experience this enlightenment yourself, which leads me to my guarantee. Of course, there is a 30-day, no questions asked refund policy. If for whatever reason this process isn't for you, we'll refund your money. But I also promise that you will have an enlightened Satori Nirvana experience, and that if you don't get that from the home study course itself, then I will work with you personally on the live calls. I'll work with you in the live event, or I promise I'll get on the phone with you one-on-one and so make sure you have an experience. And I've literally done this with thousands of people around the world, and my experience is that 99% of the people can have an experience. It just sometimes takes facilitating some of these stubborn voices that are a little fearful so that you can have an experience. So for tonight, the investment in the program is $197, which is an extraordinary value for what you get. I love that from Natalie. Wow.
I wasn't expecting that, actually. That's incredibly valuable package to be putting together at an exceptionally fantastic price. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm really, of course, proud of this work. I believe that this process, and no matter whether you use enlightened tapping meditation or you use any other enlightenment process, it's the enlightened people who are going to fuel the tipping point of consciousness. And it's certainly the enlightened entrepreneurs, the people who are enlightening themselves, using and running enlightening businesses and using enlightened marketing, that are going to really be on the vanguard of tipping point. So you can go ahead, John, and post the link for people now to make their investment if you want to. And so you should see just below your chat there a visual with a link to add to cart. And then also there is the evolutionary the Enlightened Tapping Meditation.com/yes. You can go and visit the sales page there. Just a couple more things from some of my beloved friends. Margaret Lynch, a mutual friend of mine and Natalie's. She's been a believer in the Enlightened Tapping meditation from the beginning. She's flown me to different places in the world to present this at all of her live events. We do enlightened tapping in the morning before she starts her events. She's flown me to her high-level masterminds to share this with her platinum people because it's so extraordinary. Joan Ranquette is one of the top animal communicators in the world. She's just an amazing teacher, and she's had her own meditation practice for over 20 years. And she says, again, what I hear over and over is that people talk about enlightenment, but very few people deliver the experience of it. And so that's what enlightened tapping does. It delivers the experience over and over and over and allows you to tap it into your consciousness and your being. So that's that. I know Teresa asked a question which I want to get back to and answer. So if you've got any questions or comments about what we've done, please enter them into the chat. And Natalie and I will do our best to answer them. So I'm going to come back to you for a minute, dear. And Teresa said, I have left 45 years of occult religion and 23-year marriage, and I'm having difficulty coping and finding peace, and this was helpful. Well, I'm so pleased. And this process is the anti-cult. Yes. Because it's about, the cult. I have a phrase that I love, that the rainbow was in the butterfly before the caterpillar was born. And what I mean by that is I love the metaphor of the caterpillar and the cocoon and the butterfly. And when we as human beings are born, we're like the caterpillar, that we're born into a family and a tribe and a culture and a government and political systems and educational systems and economic systems. And the one thing they all have in common is that they demand that we conform to the rules and the status quo. And if we don't conform, then we run the risk of being exiled or abandoned or even annihilated. And it's every person in their soul has an imprint that they know that they're going to be a butterfly one day if they have the courage to enter into that cocoon. And the cocoon is about shaking off all that old programming and all those people that demand that you be a certain way to be in their tribe, in their community. And it's conditional behavior, it's conditional love, it's conditional everything. And when you enter into that transformation of the cocoon and you develop the muscles, you transform into that butterfly. And then you have to elbow your way out of that incredibly strong cocoon and develop the strength to actually step out and spread your wings and become your unique self. And I call that going from living a biography that somebody else wrote for you to then writing and living your own autobiography. You step into your own authority with your own radiant, beautiful wings and owning your own power. So, Teresa, I salute you for having the courage to step out of all that you knew and all that you loved, and stepping into your own authority. I know it's scary, and I just commend you so much. My heart's really open to you for that. So congratulations.
What's also interesting about the butterfly in the cocoon is that if you see the butterfly struggling to get out, and you decide that you want to help it by opening up the cocoon, then what will happen is that the butterfly will liquefy, because the struggle is what actually strengthens the butterfly to become a butterfly. So, we've all been through the struggles. You have, I have, Teresa definitely sounds like she has as well. Like, we've gone through the struggle now, and sometimes we need to go through that to have the strength to get to this point where we can step into this enlightenment, where we can step into this bigger version of ourselves, and step into this happy part of our lives. So everything is just as it should be.
Yeah. Well, if anyone in the audience still has any questions or comments, this is your time to join us before we say goodbye for the evening. We're coming up almost on the 2-hour mark. So, Natalie, I just want to say a special thank you to you. I love you so much. I appreciate all your love and support and taking your time and your vulnerability in front of your audience like this to share your own self.
It is my pleasure. For you, anything. And like I said, I believe so much in what it is that you do. And I feel the transformation, but I've seen the transformation in so many other people that it's just, it's a modality that we have to share. So thank you for spending the time tonight. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
As it always is with you.
Well, we managed to have lots of pleasures at lots of levels. So
yes.
Whether it's sushi or just having a nice, fun evening out, or a walk, or heartfelt conversation on the marina. So
always.
Well, and Teresa just entered in. Thank you for those kind words. You're absolutely welcome, and we're thrilled to have you here. So. Anything else, Natalie, you want to say before we say goodnight?
No, I just want to thank everyone who joined us live on the webcast or on the workshop. I hope that you felt the transformation and that opening that I did, and that I really encourage you, if you want to go deeper into this work and really live life from this higher vibration. Like, when you live in this high vibration, like, seriously, when I started to live like that, one of the most common things I used to say all the time is like, everything always works out for me, because it's so much easier to see the solutions and to attract the right things and to be in that vibrational match of those amazing things that you want to create in your life when you're at that higher vibration. And you've seen how simple this modality is. And to be able to use something simple like this and work with someone as amazing, as fabulous as Alan, to really help you get there in a very short period of time. Like, we're not talking about, months of work. We're talking about a very short period of time to be able to elevate you to that vibrational state. I cannot speak more highly of Alan or his program, or the work that he does. So I love you, darling. You're amazing.
Well, thank you so much, dear. And I want to give a special shout out to John, who's sort of been working tirelessly in the backdrop. He's our technician that's made sure that everything's gone smoothly for us. So thank you so much, John.
Thanks, John.
Yeah. And we're going to say goodnight. So let me just say once again a heartfelt thank you to everyone who joined us, who tapped, who had an experience. And if you want to go deeper into this work, I'd love to have you to join us. So thank you.
Right. Good night, everyone.